Now, one of the things that I absolutely love about FlutterFlow is just how easy it is to get started and build a simple app. So even if you have no experience with building apps or software development or anything related to computers, you can get started right now and have a simple app finished in less than an hour. That's how easy it is to build apps with FlutterFlow. Now, the flip side of that is if you're going to be building apps with FlutterFlow, you're going to notice sooner or later that a lot of apps that people build with FlutterFlow look very, very similar to each other, if not almost identical, even having completely different functionality. But what if I told you that you can quickly and easily add some amazing features and functionality that are going to completely set your app apart? And so in today's video, I'm going to be showing you some amazing techniques that you can add to your apps to get them to stand apart and be completely different than the rest of the competition. And the best part of it all is that the techniques that I'm going to be sharing in today's video are going to be applicable to just about any app that you're building, regardless of the niche. Now, for those of you who stick around until the end, I'm going to be sharing with you a very, very powerful tip that allows you to customize these behaviors any way that you want. You definitely do not want to miss it. Now, before we get started, as always, all the apps and all the resources that I talk about on this channel are available to view and or clone from my Patreon page. And you can learn more about our amazing Patreon community using the link in the description below the video. Now, FlutterFlow comes bundled with some amazing widgets that you can use in your apps. But still, there are lots of innovative techniques and functionalities that we may want to include in our apps that are not included with FlutterFlow. And so what you can do is you can head over to pub.dev and you can browse some very, very interesting and innovative widgets, behaviors, animations, transitions that you can integrate into your app. And there are tons and tons of widgets, tons and tons of animations, behaviors, all kinds of interesting things. And so initially, I wanted to create a top 10 list, a top 10 list of widgets that you're going to find very, very useful in your apps. But then I realized that there's so many widgets out there, and what I came up with is must-have widgets that pretty much any app can benefit from. And so regardless what kind of app that you're building, what kind of a niche your app is in, you're going to find the following widgets, the following transitions that I'm about to share with you very, very helpful. And I'm going to be very, very surprised if by the end of the video, you're not including all the transitions and the widgets that I'm going to be talking about in today's video. And so the first must-have widget that I want to share with you is called Introduction Screen. And this widget has almost 2,500 likes. It has 99% popularity. It's a very, very popular widget. And most of all, it's a very, very practical widget. So the way this widget works is that you can include an introduction screen in your app. So let's say you're building an app and you want to create an experience for the users that are going to be using your app for the first time. So if I download your app, you can create an introduction. You can create a little tutorial. You can create a little wizard that kind of walks the user through some of the important features in the app, and perhaps also give them some tips, give them some pointers as to the best ways of using this app. And so this is an animation of how this works, right? So you can create multiple screens. You can have as little as 2 screens, or you can have as many screens as you want, and then you can put anything that you want on each of the screen and let the user navigate. And then you can have a behavior that when they finish navigating this wizard, they're going to be redirected to the home page or the dashboard or the initial page, or any kind of behavior that you want your users to engage in. And so here I am inside of FlutterFlow, and I went ahead and I integrated this amazing, amazing widget inside of my FlutterFlow app. So let's go ahead and run this app and let me show you how this works. All right, so here's our app, and this is the introduction screens widget. Okay, so I have 3 pages that I have customized, and you can put anything that you want on each of these pages. And so the way it works is that at the bottom, you see the 3 dots, and you're going to see the active dot in a different color. So in this case, because we're using the darker theme, the active dot is black, while the other dots are kind of this grayish color. And so we can click on next, and this is going to go to the second page. And now we have a second page, which is fully customizable. And if we click on next again, we're going to be on the last page here. And once we reach the last page, we have a button called done. And when I click on this button, you can customize its behavior as to what happens after that. So if I click on this button, we are redirected to another page. So this is a fixed page, and this could be a home page, a dashboard, or anything else. But regardless, the user watches that whole introduction, so that initial tutorial, that initial wizard, when they launch the app, and then when they click done, they're redirected to anywhere that you want. So let's go ahead and jump back into FlutterFlow, and I'll show you how this is implemented. And remember, if you're a member of our amazing Patreon community, you'll be able to clone this app and easily customize it yourself. So here we are back in FlutterFlow, and this is the page where I have configured this. Okay, so as you can see, this is this custom widget right here, and the widget that we are using is widget 1. So if you come over here, click on widget 1, you can see this customization. I basically took this widget from here, use the instructions, they give you installing, example, everything, and I went ahead and I included it here. Now, the way that you customize it is you essentially include a list of pages. So as you can see, I have this page view model, and for each of these page view models, I have a title, a body, and an image. And so you can add more things, you can add more, another image, you can add another title. But I figured this could be a nice demo, right? A title, a body, and then an image. And so for each of these pages, I have different ones, right? So I have title of introduction page, title 2, meaning the second page, title 3, and then I have different, for the images, I have these icons here. And obviously you can have an image that's stored as your local assets or downloaded somewhere on the internet. And I also have a next button and a done button. Okay, and I specified here what they're actually called, right? So the next button it says next. You can customize that as well. So you can say next screen or next something, and you can also customize done as well. Now, another thing that I did here is that I have here a callback, an action callback that is executed whenever the user presses on done. So when they reach the last page, they have a done button, so not the next button. They click on done, and then you can do whatever you want. So here I have something called widget undone, and all that does is that it executes a workflow. So if we go back to the UI, we select this widget here. This is this widget 1. You can specify a flow here. You have an action. So if you open this up, all I'm doing is I'm doing a navigation, right? So assuming that the user presses done, we want to navigate them to another screen. So like the normal screen, the screen that they would see if we didn't have this introduction screens, right? If we didn't have this wizard. And so here I have a callback here in action, and here I'm specifying the place that the action that we want the user to take, right? And in this case, this is a navigation action to the home page, which is what you typically are going to be doing. But you obviously are not limited to that, right? You can do anything that you want. You can display some kind of a dialog box. You can redirect them to another website or app, or etc., etc. It's really, really up to you. And so this is fully customizable, just how I have these pages here. So you can change the pages. You can just remove one of these pages like this. So if I remove that, I now have just 2 pages. And so if I save this, rerun the app, we're only going to see 2 pages. And so I'm going to go ahead and put that back in, and we can also add another page, right? So all I need to do is copy this, put a comma, paste that, and then customize this 4th page. If we want to see 4 pages, it's that easy. And like I said initially, this is a very, very useful widget. In fact, I would say this is a must-have widget if you're building an app that's slightly more complex than a very, very simple app. So if it's slightly more complex, you have maybe a couple of screens, you have a couple of things that it's doing, then you're going to be doing everybody a favor by listing the features, by listing the functionality. And so this is definitely a must-have widget, regardless what kind of app that you're building. Now, the next custom behavior that I want to share with you is one that you have seen everywhere. I would be surprised if you've never seen this behavior. The app that I'm using every day, a weather app, a custom weather app, has this behavior. Another app that I'm using has this behavior. Everybody is doing this right now, and this is awesome behavior, because it provides a certain level of feedback to your users. So once you see it, you would definitely want to implement it in all of your apps. And what is the behavior that I'm talking about? Well, it's a shimmer effect. Well, take a look at this. You have probably seen this everywhere. Your favorite app probably is doing this right now. Another app that you're about to launch after watching this video, hopefully, is probably doing this as well. And this is very helpful, because it essentially tells the users, hey, we are loading, we're doing something, so just stay back, chill, be a little bit more patient, but you're gonna get your data. And now let's go ahead and jump back into FlutterFlow so that I can show you this as a custom widget. Now on this page here, you are seeing various pieces of information, but before this view actually load, before we actually pull up the information needed by this view, we are gonna be displaying a shimmer effect. Let's go ahead and run this app. And so if I go to the second page, you're gonna see this shimmer effect. You see that? And boom, now the information is loaded. Let me show you that again. So if I jump back to the first page, then go to the second page, you see this just for a second or so, and then you are seeing the final data. So let's go ahead and jump back into FlutterFlow, and I'll show you how this is done. Now, the way that I have this implemented is I'm using a stack so that I can have conditional widgets as children of the stack. So inside the stack, we're either displaying this shimmer widget, or we are displaying the actual data. So what is this shimmer widget? Well, it's actually very easy. Go to custom code widget 2, and this is our shimmering widget, and that is all it is, right? This is our shimmering widget. And the thing about these shimmer effects is that you can completely customize it, right? So you can create image placeholders, you can create text placeholders, you can create any kind of placeholders, and you can align it any way that you want. And so in our case, right, if we go back here and we click this, we have this here. Now, it doesn't exactly reflect the final data, and that is absolutely fine. I have noticed lots of apps do not have the shimmer view identical to the final view, and that is absolutely okay, because the bottom line is that the user sees something happening, right? And then they see the final view. And so if we go back here, you see I have lots and lots of placeholders. So we have something called a banner placeholder. We have something called a title placeholder. We have a content placeholder, right? And we have a bunch of these, right? We have 3 of these, right? So we have a banner, and then we have all of these other title. We have 3 of these title placeholders. And if you scroll down, you have some of these definitions for each of these placeholders. And you don't really need to modify it all that much, right? You don't need to customize it all that much. Once you have this whole custom widget, and I'm essentially using the code from this plugin here, just customized for FlutterFlow, you don't need to customize it all that much. You just need to make it look good. You just need to make it look realistic, and you can just leave it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it. And so if we go back to our page here, I also have a page variable called loading. And initially that variable is true, because initially the page is loading. But then at some point the page loads, and loading is now false, and as a result we can show the data, right? When loading is true, we are showing this shimmer effect. When loading is false, we are showing the data. And I also have a custom action that triggers when this page is loaded, right? So it's all the way at the top here, and if you open it here, I have a delay for 2 seconds. So we have a loading behavior, a loading simulation, something that takes 2 seconds here. And then all I'm doing is I'm updating page state. I'm essentially toggling this loading variable. So I'm setting it from true to false. So initially it's loading to true, then it becomes loading false. And when it's loading false, we display the actual content here, courtesy of the stack and conditional visibility that we have here. So for this shimmer widget, loading is true. Otherwise, loading is false here. And as a result, we have this very, very nice behavior. Now, of course, in your production apps, you're not going to have that same wait 2 seconds or wait 1 second. You're going to have a certain action. Maybe you're making a call to an API, which is a very, very valid use case. Maybe you're loading data from a local file. Maybe you're, accessing a website. You're doing something, and while that action is taking place, you're going to be showing this shimmer effect. You're going to be showing that shimmer widget. And once you get that data, you're going to set your variable loading to false. And when you set it to false, this will automatically switch, and you're going to be displaying the data by displaying this other widget. So a very, very straightforward behavior that especially makes it easy to modify your apps, your existing apps, to add this amazing functionality. And of course, if you're planning to build an app, then I would just get started with this behavior right away so that you don't need to customize your app later. Now, the next custom behavior that I want to share with you guys could easily be one of my favorites because it's so versatile, and I can see this being implemented in all kinds of different scenarios. And I guarantee you that when you learn about this amazing behavior, you're going to be putting it to use very, very quickly, if not right now. So this amazing widget is called a timeline tile. Okay, so you can just Google for timeline tile, and this is a package to help build customizable timelines in Flutter. So what is a timeline? Well, the best way to explain it is to simply show you what it looks like. So if we take a look at these demos here, a timeline essentially displays a time series, right? A bunch of events that occur at different points in time. Now, in this first example here, we have a timeline that represents a soccer game or a football game if you're in Europe. And here you can have various times, right? Various points in time where something important happens. So things like a foul, things like a yellow card, a goal, a red card, maybe an injury, another goal, etc., etc. And this is very, very common if you watch soccer or football. You're going to be seeing these timelines just about everywhere, and this is very, very easy. And so with this widget, you can implement this kind of timeline. Another timeline we have here is an activity tracker, right? So this essentially shows you the various activities throughout your day. So this is 8 in the morning, then you have 9 in the morning, and then you have like 1 p.m., 5 p.m., etc., etc., and then you have various activities. Okay, now the one timeline that immediately caught my attention simply because it's so practical, and I immediately saw the value because I can immediately, put it in one of the apps that I'm building. I can immediately leverage it, is this order status timeline here. So as you can see on this screenshot here, we have a track order screen. So at the top, it says, estimated time, the order number, and then we have a timeline. So order was placed, order confirmed, order processed, and ready for pickup. And as you can see, order processed is the current one, right? So as you can see, the green ones, these happened in the past. You can kind of tell by the colors. And this one right here, ready for pickup, it's kind of like faint. It's kind of grayish faint. And you can easily see what's happening with your order. You can easily see that right now, order is processed. This is the current status, right? There's really no need to kind of explain, what exactly is the status is. It's self-explanatory, right? You can take a look at it and you can immediately know what's happening. Now, obviously, you can create all kinds of different timelines. You can create any kind of timeline that you want. But once I saw this, I immediately saw the value of it, right? I immediately realized that, hey, this is really, really awesome. And it's going to make my app look very, very professional. And that is why I adapted this specific timeline in a custom widget. So let's go ahead and jump back into FlutterFlow here. Let's go to this third page here. And here is my custom timeline. Let's go ahead and run this app. And if I go to the third page, you're going to see a custom timeline that has been adapted for FlutterFlow. Now, just with a quick glance, you can see which status is active, and that is this order place status. And that is because this little dot here is of different color, but also the actual statuses, they're kind of faint and grayish. Below it, whereas this one is kind of bold and you can immediately see it. Now, by clicking one of these buttons, we can simulate a status change that's obviously going to be done automatically inside of your app when a status changes in this timeline. So if I click on go forward, as you can see now, this one is active, right? So this one is the past, and this one is active. This is the last one here. If I click on go forward again, now this one is active, right? Click go forward again. Now this one is active, right? Ready for pickup. Now if I click on go back, we have the reverse, right? Now this one is active. If I go back, now this one is active. And I go back, this one is active. And so as you can see, this has been fully adapted to FlutterFlow as a custom widget, which means that you can use it in all of your apps, and you can also customize it for different application requirements. So let's go ahead back into FlutterFlow UI Builder and let me show you how this works. Now, this is our custom widget here, widget 3. And if you go ahead into our custom widgets, you're going to see this custom widget 3. And what I did was I adapted this specific behavior, this amazing widget, to FlutterFlow. So I went ahead to pub.dev, I found the widget, and I took the code and I adapted it to FlutterFlow, which means that you can easily use it with all of your apps. So this is our custom widget here. And right here, I have my 3 statuses. Now, for each status or for each style, I have various fields that show up in the UI as part of the custom widget. So we're going to be showing things like the asset, the title, the message, and I also have colors that you can customize as well. So an asset is an image. So if you take a look here, we are showing various images here, right? So we have the image, we have the title, and then we have the status here. And so as you can see, I have 4 of these statuses here, and you can obviously add more statuses if you want. You can remove statuses as well. And the rest of this custom widget takes care of actually displaying it correctly. Now, another interesting thing that's happening is that I have a parameter here called current status. And this is a parameter that you need to pass externally, right? So you can simply use this custom widget and pass an external parameter depending on where the status is, right? So your app knows with what's happening with that specific status, for that specific order or that specific product that the user may have purchased, right? You just need to pass the current status. And so if you have these statuses here, if you pass current status as 0, then it's order placed. If you pass it as 1, then it's order confirmed, etc., etc. And so when we click on this button, we increment the status. And when we do that, the widget knows which statuses still need to come after it and which status already came before it. And as a result, it can customize the colors and customize the overall look and feel. And this go back here decreases the value. Now, obviously, in your production app, you're not going to have these buttons for your users to click around. This is only for the demo, because in your production app, you're going to be changing this delivery status internally. And once you change it internally, this widget will rebuild and show the right look and feel. So it's gonna know which statuses are still to come. So change the color, maybe make them fainted grayish. Whereas it's also gonna know which statuses already came before it, meaning that we've passed those statuses, and it's going to make, you know, a different look and feel for the statuses that came before it, as opposed to the statuses that come after it. So all of this is ready for you to leverage. You can simply take this whole custom widget and simply update the statuses according to your app's business logic. So when the user loads the app is going to know where the status is, and you can simply pass that status into this custom widget, and the user is going to see the right behavior, the right status information on their screen. Now, last but not least, I want to give you a bonus custom behavior that you can implement in just about any kind of app that you're building. And this behavior is called a percent indicator. And this is exactly what it says. It's essentially an indicator that represents the percentage completed. Now, FlutterFlow has various indicators that are built in that essentially show that a certain action is in progress right now. So if you have an app and you get the user to press a button and now the user needs to wait for some action to complete, you can have FlutterFlow show a specific custom behavior that essentially mimics an action that's in progress right now. So essentially telling the user that they need to wait. The issue there is that these FlutterFlow built-in widgets typically do not show how much of an action has been completed and how much more does the user need to wait, right? They're very, very generic indicators, and all they do is simply loop. They're essentially looping. So these could be circles or other shapes that simply loops. So they tell the user that an action is taking place, but the user still doesn't know how much more they need to wait. Do they need to wait 2 minutes, or do they need to wait 2 hours, or maybe 2 days? The user has no idea. And that's the beauty of this indicator, is that it tells the user exactly how much of the action has been completed and how much more that they need to wait. And these indicators could be circular or they can be linear, and you can customize just about everything about them. You can change the color, the thickness, you can change the font, you can change anything that you want, and you can easily leverage them in your app. So let's go ahead and jump into FlutterFlow so that I can show you how this works. So here's our last example here. And this is our custom behavior here. And I chose to use a circle here. And so if you run this app, you're going to see the behavior. So as you can see, it's slowly completing the circle, right? It's now at 25%. And soon it's almost at 50%. And it's slowly inching towards completion. And this allows the user to know exactly where they're at. It allows the user to see exactly what's going on, how much of the action has been completed, and how much more they need to sit and wait for this to finish. So these are very, very easy to implement. Let's go ahead and jump back into FlutterFlow. And so I'm using this widget 4, come back over here, widget 4 here, and this is all I'm doing. The simplest custom widget out there. Okay, so here you can customize things like the radius, the line width, and here we are specifying the percent. And obviously this value will be updating dynamically, as I'm going to show you in just a second. But after percent, we also have the text. So we say center, and then we have the text inside. And here I'm simply displaying the percent, right? The percent completed. And we have another customization called progress color, colors green. And these customizations are merely scratching the surface, because you can customize these widgets any way that you want with other customizations that are available at your disposal. Now, this widget accepts a percent, which means that we're going to be passing percent from the outside to this custom widget. And this is exactly what you want, because this widget does not know, how long something is going to take. This is something that you need to tell it. And that is why we're going to be passing a percent value. And every time we pass a new value, this widget is going to rebuild. And that is why you see that animated behavior. And so if we go back to our page here, this is example 4. What we have here is we have an action flow at the top level. So when the page loads, we have 3 actions. And this is essentially a loop. And so what I'm doing here is I have a loop that goes from 0 to 100. And every time this loop iterates, we are updating the value. We are updating the percentage, okay? And we're also incrementing it by 1. And that is why you're seeing the percentage go 1 at a time, right? If we increment it by 10, then you're going to see, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, etc., etc. And then we have a wait delay to simulate an action, okay? Because if we remove this delay, you're not going to see an animation, because it's going to happen in one swoop. It's going to happen in one moment, essentially. And that is why I have this animation here. And so in your production apps, you're obviously not going to have this wait delay. You're going to have some kind of an animation. So if you're fetching a file, if you're have an API call that's being executed, then you're going to have this API call or fetching the file or doing something else instead of this wait delay. And as a result, you'll be able to track how much of your specific action has progressed, and that way the user can estimate how much more they need to wait. Now, for those of you who are still watching this video, I want to give you an important tip that is going to let you customize all of these custom widgets even further, pretty much any way that you want. So if we go back to this first widget here, you can see that I have 3 pages here. Well, what you can do is you can take all of this, copy it, paste it into ChatGPT, and tell ChatGPT exactly how you want to modify it. So if you want to create an intro with 5 pages or 6 pages, you can simply copy this or copy the entire widget and tell ChatGPT, hey, ChatGPT, modify this widget to have 5 pages instead of 3, or modify this widget and add 3 more pages consisting of the following data. And ChatGPT will understand what this code is about, and it will know exactly how to surgically modify it to your specific requirements. And you can do that for all the widgets here. So if you want to modify the shimmer here, you can simply copy this entire widget. It's not very, very long. Paste it into ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT to create a shimmer widget exactly to your specifications. And you can do the same for the rest of the widgets as well. Now, as mentioned in the beginning of the video, the best way to leverage all of these custom behaviors, and you got to admit, these are very, very practical. I mean, you can easily use them, all of them, in pretty much all the apps that you're building. These are not very, very specific that they only work for certain apps. These behaviors work with just about any app that you're building. You can definitely find a place for them. Now, the very best way to get started is being able to view and or clone this app. And you can easily do this when you become a member of our amazing Patreon community. Because remember, when you join our amazing Patreon community, you're not only going to get access to this app, you're going to get access to all my apps. And that's over 150 or 160 apps that I've done so far on this channel. They're all there, and you can easily view and or clone every single one of them. And I've built apps in all kinds of niches, in all kinds of areas, having all kinds of functionalities, having all kinds of features. If you can do it with FlutterFlow, chances are I built an app that allows you to leverage that specific functionality. And so that way you can simply take a look at the app, see what you need, and simply clone that functionality. Or you can clone the entire app. But regardless of how you approach it, you don't need to start from scratch. You do not need to spend time on things that could be spent in all kinds of different ways. And of course, that's not all. When you join our amazing Patreon community, you're going to be joining a community, a rapidly growing community with some amazing, amazing people that are eager to learn, that are eager to share knowledge, that come from all walks of life, that have all kinds of different experiences under their belt. And of course, you're also going to get access to extra content such as our Q&As, live streams, behind the scenes content, and our Patreon supported masterclass series where I do deep dives on important topics that the community finds valuable. And above and beyond, when you join our amazing Patreon community, you're going to be supporting this channel and supporting my work, and that is greatly, greatly appreciated. And so if you found this or any of my other videos valuable, you're going to find a ton more valuable content inside of our Patreon community. And you can learn more about our amazing Patreon community and hopefully become a member by checking out a link in the description below this video.